Hey everybody. Again, I wanted to start getting you some videos here, kind of talking about the things I see in these animations and things that you can work on if you decide to revise them, and also sort of explanations of why the grade is what it is and what I use to kind of justify that. So let's go ahead and start with Nunye. So overall, um, the biggest issue with this, I had a hard time figuring out exactly if what was happening with this. It feels a little like it's flailing around a little bit. So my biggest note is two different things. One is the platform just kind of drifts down kind of slowly here, and so it doesn't really feel like it's flying. It pops around a little bit after that, but it's just kind of even and slow. The other thing is this doesn't feel like the pendulum is reacting to any of that movement. It feels like something has a hold of it by the end and is yanking it around. And the reason for that is because I think that your overlapping action is actually happening in reverse. It's like the lower parts of the hierarchy um, are the lower parts of the hierarchy are being pulled around first. So it's like it feels like this ball starts rotating before any of the rest of this stuff does. And so I think if you were doing overlapping action, it would actually usually happen the other way. This piece would move first, and then this would move next, and then this next, and then this next. And so that's why it kind of has that feeling of like the end of it is leading it. And you see how that kind of feels in parts of it. Like right here, maybe that feels a little bit, but it's still I think it just feels a little bit all over the place and just needing a little bit more cleanup. It just needs more cleanup um, to um, to sort of show me where how the forces are interacting with each other. Okay, Andrew. Okay. I think this one's working all right. We have some stuff like the platform hits here and then rotates, so it's kind of like it hits a wall, just dunk stops, and then rotates back, and then this piece does that, and it feels like stuff can't just hit a wall like that. Like it either like eases into this motion and stops, or it shoots past it and comes back a little bit. And I'm just talking about the main platform piece right now. So that feels a little like a harsh hit. And then it kind of feels like it's locked in space for a while there. And then it just feels like it's kind of sliding around here in one axis. So a little bit of like, my guess is if you were to look at the tangents for this, when it comes to a dead stop, the tangent's going to look like this. It's going to go up, and then it's just going to immediately change directions. So it's going to hit that really hard, right? Um, and then after we get to this sections here, it's just going to stay flat for a long time. And a lot of your tangents are flat and not getting sort of some smooth, like even if it does, like instead of being completely flat, even if it is supposed to not really be moving much, just little bits of drift in this, like something like this instead, is going to feel a little bit more natural. Okay, because when we lock something in place, that just feels like something else has like clamped down on it and is holding it there. Some of your overlapping action stuff is a little slow, like right there at the end. It's like this piece here. Like you're getting some overlapping action that feels good, but the pendulum, like we hit this point, and then the time it takes to rotate to here just takes a little longer, and then it feels like it kind of speeds up a little bit. So I think that just needs to be adjusted with your timing a little bit more. Having said that, all the pieces are here. It just needs a little bit more polish and a little bit more tweaking. Um, Stuff like on this wave here at the end, or in the middle here, which is kind of doesn't feel like it's losing any energy. It feels like it's kind of going back and forth almost the same distance. So you need to feel like it's it's kind of dying down and losing some of that energy a little faster. Okay, Jacob. Okay, so I think that you can have a little bit more overlapping action in these. So as it's coming back down here toward it, see, I'm looking at this one along the top. It kind of stays in this arc without really changing very much. So think of it in terms of I once this arm is done rotating this way, right? It's going to turn around and come back this way. And it's going to do that before this one changes directions. And the same here. Like this one will happen a frame later, and then this will happen a frame later, and then this will happen a frame later. And so what you kind of get is this this whip action. So this may be one frame. But then after we get to the end here and this one starts to change directions, this one's still sort of dragging along behind it. Trying to catch up. So I don't know if that illustration probably didn't make a lot of sense, but it's really just trying to catch up with it. And so I feel like that's feeling just a little stiff, like it's mainly your rotation is coming from here, and you're not getting sort of that reaction as it comes in contact with it. And then down here in the bottom pendulum, I'm getting a little bit of that too. And so see how like the end pieces are moving way bigger. These bottom two are moving way bigger motions than the top piece is. And so that makes it feel like the rotation is coming from here and here more and not from here. And so that'll be a little bit of it, which is kind of... it also feels like maybe they're not offset. Maybe right there they're a little bit. Like it starts to rotate forward, and then that one kind of catches up, and then it kind of does a little bit of a lunge there. So I think that's just cleaning up your curves there, if that makes sense. But more than anything, it's just kind of smoothing this out and just making sure you're getting that whip action in here. You know, have your file, I'd open it up and kind of show. Okay, just gonna... This one's feeling pretty good. Yeah, I'm liking it. It kind of speeds up right there at the end, that last little section here, if we watch it. Like this is feeling alright, and then it kind of dink. That little section right there just goes a little fast. Or maybe it's a little far. I don't know. It's one or the other. But make sure that like your wave will kind of die down at a pace. So if you have it like this, then like your second one maybe will be half and then half and half. You know, so you're gonna kind of get a progressive decline on the height. So that one may be a little too high. You know, you get like a little bit of that feel to it, like it's like slowing down at the same rate. Whereas if you have, you know, one like this, and then the next one like this, and then the next one is like this, and then this, like that's just a big jump between these two, you know. And so I don't know why my pin's being a little jerky like that. So that's just something to watch out for, and there's little vibraty spots like that. Overall though, this looks pretty good. Your timing's pretty good. I think this rotation, there's still something in there that feels a little hitchy, but I think it may be intentional. And then that looks great right there. So yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff in this one. But those are kind of the notes that I would point out. And come on, there we go. Okay. I think you can have a little bit more overlapping action. That was actually kind of neat. The little like salute it does here at the end, but I think it definitely needs a little bit more overlapping action in the early stages here. So like this rotation up, it feels like they all kind of, it overlaps a little bit right there at the end, but it doesn't really feel it too much, and I don't really feel it much at all there. I guess I feel it like in one of them. And so I think you could just use a little bit more of that overlapping action. And then it's kind of like when it stops moving like that, and then like the, this part takes over, then maybe that's when you switch the overlapping action. And then right here you see that as it comes down, the ball actually starts to pass it up toward the end here. So it's not really dragging. It's not really dragging back like this anymore. So I don't know. That's something that I would work on a little bit there with cleaning up the way the overlapping action is working on the pendulum. Hasten. Okay. This one's actually, I would say, very ambitious, because you're trying a lot of big moves in this, and so a lot of it's working well. There's a couple of areas where it feels like it's overlapping a little bit wrong, but I think the beginning of it here, like that's feeling really well. I think that feels good. Right here, though, you see the bottom piece starts to kind of pass it up, and so I think that you would still have a little bit more of a drag backwards here, and then as we catch up, then it would shoot past to this, and then this stuff though, this feels really neat because you're getting that gravity kind of taking over, and like you're feeling like it responds to those jerky motions. So, and then that was really cool. So yeah, there's just a couple little things in this one, but overall this one's really good. Some of the motion of the platform is like right here, it does this loop, but then this little lunge forward here feels really fast to me. So maybe like ease that out, just ease that in a little bit, or maybe as it's coming down here, it kind of feels like maybe it hesitates a little bit here and then darts forward a little fast. So maybe play around with the timing there just a little bit so it's not quite as jolting. Okay, Joseph. So I think you got the right idea with the energy dying down. It kind of feels like it's slowly moving. So part of the issue with this one, I think, is though even though it's a neat idea, it still needs a little bit of. I like the idea. Let me see how to phrase this. I think that the assignment is it's important to show movement with the base to show how that affects the pendulum. So the fact that the pendulum is in the same spot all the time, we kind of lose out on that. Now you're getting some nice overlapping action here, so that's a plus. But I think you could even get a little bit more just by offsetting some of the lower, like I try to circle it while it's moving. Some of the lower pieces here, like these two here, are just getting a little bit more drag and overshooting at the end. So I think that you definitely need to add just a little bit more of that, but I think also just having some movement in the platform and showing how that affects the thing dangling below it. I think that's an important part that's not really in here. Chris. Okay. This one is really slow in a couple of spots. Open with QuickTime. So character comes in here and just kind of, it's like it's coming in pretty quick, and then it kind of slows down through here, and it's very even, and the rest of this motion is kind of slow. And so I think it needs mainly it needs a really good timing pass. Sorry. But I think it also needs some more overlapping action, because it doesn't feel like there is much. Definitely doesn't feel like there's any drag. Like the fact that like the pendulum, the bottom of the pendulum starts to go forward first before this thing's even started moving. So I think that that's kind of the biggest issues I see there. A lot of timing work on this, just sort of improving your timing and just making it feel like it's, you know, like I would almost say, you know, if we could hide the bottom pieces, just ignore those. And then if you could ignore those bottom pieces and animate this to where it feels like it's moving right, you know, and then go in here and add the motion from this later. And I feel like this is still feeling just a little stiff, and like there's not very much overlap in that. Nick. That one looks really good with the exception of the end here. I feel like the end, it starts to pass it up, and then it kind of vibrates to a stop there. So I think you'd have, you know, spend another couple seconds and just let it kind of ease, like to a stop, like settle to a stop. Didn't mean to do that. But otherwise, I think you get some really good motion in here. You get some good overlapping action happening at the end of those flips, right there, there, and there. And then like it kind of just feels like you lose a little bit here at the end, where it kind of passes it up here, and then kind of feels like it comes to a stop a little too suddenly and sort of vibrating. But otherwise, that one was really good. Okay, Matt. Overall, this one was great. There's a couple of little, I wouldn't even call them hitches, but there's a couple of little areas I think you could smooth out in some of the curves right there in the first fly path in. But all that stuff at the end looks really good. So like this first one in here, maybe just playing a little bit with the arcs and sort of cleaning up some of the curves. But overall, that looks really good. I don't have very much to add to this one. And I think that looks awesome. This fact that it hesitates and then pulls down fast, like that's how you sell weight. And so you can't hold it. It drops out. So yeah, that one's working really well. So great job. Switch this. Reg. Okay. My notes would be. Oh, let me actually open this up in QuickTime and watch it again. Oh, come on. I don't want to copy anything. What are you doing? I don't know what's happening. Open with QuickTime. So early on, you're getting some pretty good stuff. I think your platform is moving really nicely, especially, and I think that you get some pretty good overlap right there. And then I do think that it kind of feels like it don't like that change in direction is a little hard to me. I think, and then it starts to like that. That overlap feels good, but then it kind of Here you go, a little bit of a hitch right there. And then you got some hitching there. That's a little fast. And then this one was a little fast too, I think. And then that like kind of swings and then just locks there. And so I think really some of the pendulum at the very end here, like it just needs a little bit more polish on how it overlaps. It's really close, but I think it just needs like, so it kind of like drags and then pops and then hits a wall before it comes back. And so I think that just needs a little bit of cleanup on the curves, but otherwise I think this one's looking pretty good. Taylor. Yeah, that's looking really good. So let's talk about the motion here. That one feels really good. I feel like there's one of the movements right here as it comes back. Let's see. I feel like there's a chance that these two, so it dips back here and then it does these two swings here. And I feel like those two, like the two swings feel a little big. It's very, very subtle. Like just a little bit. Like maybe that amount of motion change here doesn't warrant it swinging all the way back to the front that far. But overall, this one's really, really pretty solid. I think you could also probably do a little bit more tweaking in the curves, just to kind of polish out a couple little tiny hitches. And then on your last piece here, it does this drop down and flies off. And I feel like the only other little thing I would say is like this connection here and this connection here. I feel like you could almost break that a little bit more. So instead of being this like clean swoopy arc, have it go ahead and be like that up until here, and then maybe drag it up a little bit more like this. And so you get a little bit more drag on that final piece, because these are some pretty subtle movements that change the direction of it quite a bit. And then the same here, as it flips back around, it's kind of like it loses a little bit of energy when it hits there. And I think you could even carry this on around a little bit more like this, a little bit more. So just kind of flipping that ball around a little bit more. Those are very small, nitpicky things. So overall, this one looks really great. Elizabeth Hammer. Okay, so we got the platform motion, and I think it's actually not bad. So this one's, is it flying or is it swimming? So the reason I ask that is because this feels odd to me at the end, because the ball is leading this curve. So you have this like this direction as it's coming forward, instead of the base, dragging down here and sort of getting a little bit more like this, and then it flipping forward to that. So I think that because it feels like this piece rotates before this and all the way up the chain, it feels like there's something that has a hold over here and is pulling it. And so it's this last little wave here at the end just kind of has that feeling to me. But I ask if it's underwater because that would make a little more sense if it was. Like it would kind of have less, it would either have more drag or have less drag depending on the weight of that. But I don't think it is because of how big that happens. I think it's either way. This is an interesting idea, but I think even in here you could have just a little bit of offset. So you see how they kind of start and stop at the same, all of the leg pieces sort of start and stop at the same time. So if we watched it, kind of hits that pose and then changes directions. Same here. This is a good example here. So it kind of all pushes out and hits there again, all at the same time. And I think even having that happen a little bit offset too, this one first, then this one, then this one, then this one, like in your timeline. I think that having that happen would really just kind of give a little bit more of a whip action there too, and feel like the source of that energy is here and pushing it. So, um, Emily, I don't know which one to click. Let's do the MOV. I think they're actually the same, if I'm not mistaken. You just get different previews on them. Okay, so it's feeling a little stiff to me. So here's my thinking. I think you need it to kind of, see how it kind of stops a little suddenly here and does that. I think it needs to kind of overshoot or ease into that a little bit more. Like, it kind of feels like it's hitting a wall when it gets there. And then after it hits and stops, it's like it waits just for a frame before this starts to rotate. And so it feels a little bit like it's easing out of this and not. I don't know. There's something in the way that hesitates and then does that feels a little stiff, like it's a little bit late to the party on that reaction. And on most of the waves, it doesn't feel like we're getting very much overlap. It feels like they're all kind of rotating at the same time. And so, and then we feel it here, and it's almost like it's the opposite here. It's like it's almost starting to rotate at the bottom first, and then building it up as if something's pulling it from down here. So I think even if it just started waving itself and get this big like wave, it would still feel like that rotation was starting up here and working its way down. And so you'd still get that whip action, this shape, and it sort of drags around through here. So okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's see what else we got here. Lindsay. It looks like we're about halfway through. Let's go ahead and do Lindsay's really quick. Let's skip it. There's not a video in here, so I'll get that on the next round through. So I'll talk to you soon.